And all that glitters is gone. Only shooting stars break the mold. Alright, here we are, dudes. Alright. So you might be asking, what is a beliefer? Well, guess what? You got it wrong. See, today we are talking about American author Stephen King. Now, for those who might, like me when I was younger, might have believed, hey, isn't that always spelled with a V? No, apparently it can be spelled with PH too, so it's technically believer, just PH. Dumb, yes, but I want to create a catchy title. So, Stephen King is an American author, most notable for things like It, which had a recent adaptation in 2017 and in 2019. The Shining, Green Mile, Shawshank Redemption, all sorts of things. Now, what I would like to talk about is a very interesting idea that occurs in his writing, and that's the power of belief. So, a good example for this particular thing that shows up is novel Salem's Lot. I think that's one of its more earlier. Obviously, there's things like The Shining too, but I think it's more prevalent in the Salem's Lot. So Salem's Lot is and I won't spoil much of it for you. I know the world seems to be actually. Yeah, I'll go spoilers. Let's put major spoilers in the title when I re-edit it, just because it's kind of important what this is about. So Salem's Lot is a book about a writer who goes to his hometown of Salem's Lot, which is a shortening of the town, which is called Jerusalem's Lot. Now, when the writer goes there, he wants to write about a big old spooky house he saw a possible supernatural occurrence in. Now, what happens soon after he gets into town is strange things starts happening. A dog, if you're very opposed to violence, especially to animals, I'd suggest you might want to this one out, because, well, granted, this is the only, there is one thing, but the other thing happens to rats, and I'm preferable to rats. Made me kind of sad. But a dog is thrown onto a spiked, gate wall. What you usually see in a cemetery. Yeah, it's not good. Now, granted, that's the point. These are supposed to be bad guys, and they're not supposed to be good towards animals. Now, as it turns out, a vampire has moved to Salem's Lot because of a prior arrangement with the owner of that spooky house, Hubie Marston. Now, part of what I think is very interesting about this story, and even the thing I think interesting, comes up in a later novel of his. Really, it's kind of an epic. But it is the fact that when the priest of that town, I think his name is Father Callahan, I'm not certain though. Feel free to correct me in the comments. Father Callahan intentionally tries to face the vampire. Now, we know him as Count Barlow, but it's not exactly. He's implied to be very older than the Catholic Church itself. Yeah, I think it's funny they also call him a shaman, which, yeah, you could call a priest that. They might not appreciate it, but yeah, I'm agreeable with that. Again, other term for a priest. But I digress. The Father Callahan, holds the cross up against the vampire. Now, before this, we've also seen people make crosses, but with just random objects in the house. I'll explain what happens to those people. Now, the boy he's trying to protect, the vampire has, is Mark Petrie. Now, When he's trying to get it back, the vampire, Count Barlow, challenges the priest, Father Callahan, and says, "Hey, Father, I'm older than your religion is. If you truly have faith in your God, throw away your cross. You know, throw away the thing he believes gives him protection." Sorry for that. And the father says, "I don't need to." But in a sense, that's the moment the cross stops working for him. Now, for those of you who think, "Oh, another religious video," it's only religious because of the context of vampires. I can relate to you, the history of gothic vampires at a later date if you want to. But the short of that is, when uh, Bram Stoker wrote the Victorian novel Dracula, at that time, it was considered that vampires are unholy and not sexual beings, as we see in the Twilight, True Blood, all sorts of things. Kind of makes you weird. Never mind. I was just thinking about another vampire adaptation. But in any case, that is the reason why this has a more religious connotation for what I'm trying to say. So the cross didn't work for Father Callahan because he didn't believe in it. Now, Mark Petrie himself, the character, actually had to face off against a vampire prior in the novel. And he did so with a cross I think he made out of like popsicle sticks or something. And because he believed in that cross, it worked for him. Now, in another novel by Stephen King, the 11,000, I remember the count, the page count, 100 or 1,153 page book, It by Stephen King. In that book, the streets of a fictional Maine town, as most of his books are. It's nice to see that he picks other places, like I think he did Cincinnati for the Bill Hodges trilogy, and some Flint, Oklahoma. It's nice to see him branch out from Maine, though I always love the descriptions of Maine. But anyways, so in It, streets of Derry, a dying lumber mill town. The book alternately switches between 1985 and 1958 for the sakes of the people encountering this monster. What is plaguing Derry is a monster called It. Now, he's also alternatively called Pennywise. I think Robert Gray is another name for him, or the Deadlights. Pennywise, or It, is a manifestation of the Deadlights in this particular part of the universe. And the Deadlights is part of the whole larger macroverse in the Stephen King lore. Now, these kids, all 7 of them, encounter it in 1958, all in their various ways, and have various reactions to it. And they get together and decide to take him down, because the real catalyst to the story was the brutal murder of Georgie Denborough, little brother to one of the characters, Stuttering Bill, or Bill Denborough. Now, when they go on their way to defeat it, one thing that happens is, in the climax of that storyline in 1958, they decide to use 2 silver bullet, slugs they made from silver dollars, and shoot it at him with a slingshot that Beverly Marsh, because she was the best shot. Now, why silver slugs? Well, earlier in the book, in 1958, of course, Richie Tozier, one of the characters, encountered it in the form of a werewolf, which was one of his fears. It keeps on using Universal monster pictures, but you have to remember, the monster It is using things that he knows terrifies them. So whether or not that doesn't terrify you, I don't know. What if he decides to turn to a big spider? Insert that looking away meme here, right? But in any case, that's good. when he turns into the werewolf, that gives him the idea to, hey, why don't we use those? Because maybe if aren't werewolves supposed to be weak to silver? Now, for all of you Goosebumps fanboys like myself who are like, but that was just a myth invented by werewolves, so poor people couldn't hunt them down. Let's go with this canon, just first of all. It's like a non-joke that I just did. Uh, yeah. So, and when they get the bullets, they've gone into the sewers once again to defeat it. Beverly actually shoots and hits it, and it works. It's the power of belief that works. Now, in this story, the power of belief is a double-edged sword. Belief in it will almost certainly kill you, because that gives him all the power in the world, because his job is to extract the fear from people as he kills them. And usually why he goes after children is because apparently they have more fear, it's easier to fear than adults. Though in the course of it, he does kill adults. Now, when they shoot him, they're like, do we go back after him? They're kind of timid because they want to believe that he's dead. So they leave it alone, and that's what happened. That's why they have to go back in 1958 or 1985. But it was their belief that made them able to take him down. That's why they're always called the Lucky Seven. The 7 kids who realized, maybe we can actually do this, because it was their power of belief that was able to take down it. Now, a side note on the power of belief. Now, I want anyone who is possibly listening, I'm going to go to here for a moment. I want to ask you, hello, Xavier Martinez. I want to ask people who are listening right now to, see if do you know what the power of placebo is? For people who don't know what placebo is a psychological effect that it's all in the power of the head. Like if you're given, let's say a test, right? Let's say a test for a new pharmaceutical medication. In most cases, what you'll have is a placebo group and a control, and the group that actually gets the medicine, experimental medicine. So when that happens, the placebo is to show that there's an effect show the effects without the medicine. And people are still believing they've gotten the medicine, even though they haven't. And there's all sorts of stories, like, I was able to cure myself of, I don't know, like, you obviously some things are a little more difficult to treat with placebo, like tuberculosis, cancer, all sorts of more terminal things. But it has helped. The power of belief is a very helpful thing. That's why, when people are like, not people, but, that's why, I'm not against religion, but if religion's what happens to get you through the day, so be it. It's just another modem or medium of the power of belief. So, I've noticed other parts of Stephen King's writing where that power of belief comes into play. Like, belief. So when I read Carrie, right? Sorry, I saw like a fly or something. In Carrie, one of the things is that she knows something's going to happen. Now, it's debated sometimes if this is the power of belief, that she's basically making it happen, or that it's just that she's possibly reading her mind, or she's so traumatized by all the bullying she's gotten that she just knows it's going to happen inevitably. But she's like, I got a bad feeling about, casting her name and the guy she was going with in the prom ballot for prom queen and king. Now, for those who don't know, I think the Carrie I think it was published in 1976, was Stephen King's first book. And his wife fished it out of the trash. But she has a bad feeling that like I got a bad feeling about this, but in that ends up setting the whole Black Prom, I think it's called in the book. I'm not certain though. Don't quote me on that. But it's that whole real tragedy emotion. The burning of the murders, the basically massacre that takes place. What is this? Sorry, massacre that takes place in the gym. The whole destruction of the town. I can't remember what the town's called, but of course it's in Maine. But it's because of that one moment that could have gone completely differently. Yep. So here's something uh, I would just like to say. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I'll try to make a very nice banger of a thumbnail. Thank you. Thumbnail for this premium video. If you want to see more of this content where I talk about certain ideas and themes that occur in novels, or if you want me to continue my series on reading Journey to the West and other novels, please let me know in the comments or at me on Twitter at Edmund Kerosene. Thank you. Have a good day.